the User Experience Design Director for SOLIDWORKS. I've been with SOLIDWORKS since 2008, and so therefore I've had overall responsibility for the user interface of SOLIDWORKS for release since 2009, since SOLIDWORKS 2009. And this is the very first year that I've been invited to come and give a talk like this. And this is my sort of official corporate title for this talk is Insights about User Interface Changes, but I realized that, well, maybe a more appropriate title would be something like this. What? I realized we've made some pretty significant changes, and there's been lots of conversation. I think following me, you're going to get a deep dive into many of these changes. So I'm not going to talk about what the changes are. I'm going to talk about why we did what we did. But very quickly, here's 2015, the SOLIDWORKS that you know and you love and you're familiar with, that you've been using. A user interface that looks like this for years and years and years and years and years. And 2016. Now, one thing I'll point out is the command manager is still a command manager. The feature manager is the same. Property manager is the same. Much of the UI hasn't changed, but of course, it's lighter out of the box, and the icons. Everybody sees the icons difference. Every year when we go to beta, all of us back in Boston in R&D, we make, beta goes live, and we sit with bated breath, waiting for the comments to start coming in on the beta forums. And trust me, we read everything in the beta forums. And I realized that there has been some reaction that might best describe along these lines. Anybody here like this? Right? Come on, tell me, who is there? I see a hand back there. There's got to be others of you. I know. You don't like the UI. You hate me, right? Come on. Nobody? Nobody's going to pass up? Everybody likes it? Yes. All right. You're being polite. So the question is, why? Why did I do this? Have I lost my mind? And I want to be clear about that. I own the user interface for SOLIDWORKS. This was my idea, so it's a nice red target for you all day long. You can come and talk to me. This was my proposal, this was my idea. I basically ran and oversaw this whole project. In the beta forums, I'm always interested to see what theories people come up with, and I've seen some theories that say, I knew it. This is evidence of the DS corporate agenda, and Felici made them do it, and so on. That is not the truth. This came from me. It came from the R&D team back in Waltham. And for a change like this, there's not one single reason. There's a bunch of reasons why we did it. But they break down really for me into three buckets of decreasing importance. And the first, and most important, it's in nice big letters, most important, is high resolution monitors. We're going to dive into this in the next couple of slides in depth. But that was the overwhelming thing. And if there's a fundamental flaw in doing the changes this year, it's many of you don't have enough high-resolution monitors, monitors of high enough resolution, that you're experiencing the problems that SOLIDWORKS 2015 and before has. But I'll show you what they look like. Basically, what I'm doing is I'm trying to head off a problem that's coming down the road. If we didn't make a change in, I don't know, 1, 3, maybe 5 years, we'd be in big problems. The second set of reasons, and there's three things here, and they're all kind of mixed together for me. One is simply, SOLIDWORKS is an old code base. It's 20 years old, right? And decisions get made at point A that make sense at the time. And then you come down the road a couple of years, and other decisions get made, and it introduces complexities, and before you know it, you want to make a simple change, and it's like, but 5 years ago we made this decision, and the code is like this now, and that's going to be really hard. And when I came on board at SOLIDWORKS, I started looking in detail at the UI. and there was what I call noise in the UI. There were places where, I'm particularly a fan of design philosophy where every single pixel that I turn on the screen better have a reason. And when you start looking closely, you see places where you get lines and noise, and you know, how to clean that up. Or you also, you look at the UI, or at least I look at the UI, and I can say, this over here was designed at one point in time, and this over here was designed at another point in time, and you don't exactly count it, and all of that is in terms of fixing the underlying user interface code to bring things up more uniform and make it easier to make changes. Modernized UI goes along with this. I don't care what the domain, style changes over time. Our sense of style changes over time. This is true for clothing, for kitchen appliances, for automobiles, for architecture, for software too. And if you look at the SOLIDWORKS UI, it's a little old, it's a little dated. Particularly over the past 5, 7, 8 years, interfaces are changing rapidly, and it's being driven by devices like this. Our sense of a modern UI is different now than it used to be. And I wanted to bring up SOLIDWORKS. One of the things I'm very aware of is I need to pay as much attention to people who have been using SOLIDWORKS for 5 or 10 or 15 years, and some of you may be in that category, as I do of the people who are going to be using SOLIDWORKS in the next 1 year, 5 years, 10 years. People who are going through schools today and are in secondary or college schools today, and their sense of user interface is very different from the sense of user interface of people like me who have bald heads and have been around for a while. So that's the second bin of reasons. And the third, and yeah, I will admit this, so I have responsibility for the entire SOLIDWORKS product portfolio. And we are working on 3D experience products. And a certain level of consistency between what we're doing on 3D experience and what we're doing on this desktop product makes sense from a consistency, from a coherence point of view. And so that played into it. But it was, compared to supporting high resolution monitors, that wasn't a primary reason. Also, I want to talk about the address colorblind issues, because some people in the forums have grappled onto that. I had the writers put a line in the What's New document that mentioned that, and some people grabbed it and said, no, we take away all the color and we're going to make everyone suffer because of colorblind people. No, that's not the case. Yes, I wanted the icons to be better for people who are colorblind, because the icons from 2015 and before, those were horrible for people who are colorblind. I had one colorblind user about 2 years ago. I asked him to describe the SOLIDWORKS icons, what they looked like to him. And his comment was, well, they're sort of puke brown. In other words, the color of vomit. And the problem really is that choice of green and yellow. They are, for many colorblind users, those are indistinguishable. So where you see like a fillet and you see the different color on the fillet, on the icon, they don't see that. So it's all about shape. So I wanted to move away from that. This slide is the best single slide I could come up with to illustrate the problem with high resolution monitors. It wasn't all that long ago when all of us were running our monitors down in this corner, 800 by 600, 1024 by 768, right? When SOLIDWORKS was designed, that's even lower than that, VGA resolution, right? Who's running 800 by 600 today? Nobody, right? You are? Maybe we can upgrade here. For a long time, 1280 by 1024 was the sweet spot of resolutions, and we can see in the performance logs, we can look at resolutions that are coming back in our performance logs, and that was the sweet spot, 2010 or so. But now we see resolutions growing and growing and growing, right? Widescreens come in, prices of monitors have dropped, and we're starting to see, we've gone from 2K, 1920 by 1080 to 4K, right? And we're starting in the US, you can get a 4K monitor now between $400 to $500 in US dollars. And that price is going to drop. And we're starting to hear from the vendors that 5K and 8K and so on like this. This trend is going to just keep increasing. And the problem so much isn't resolution. The problem is pixel density. Because what's happening, if the screens kept growing, just like this screen kept growing, no problem. Everything would be the same size. But when you take a 4K resolution and you put it in the same physical form factor as a 2K resolution, everything is half as big, right? And about a year and a half ago, we started fielding complaints from customers. There was one in particular that was like, oh my, it was somebody who was running, Dell has a 15-inch laptop that has a 4K screen in it. Wow, right? I travel with a Surface Pro. That's got like a 1920 by 1080 resolution in a 12-inch laptop. Everything is really teeny, tiny. So Microsoft's solution to that is something called Windows Display Scaling. And we talked to Microsoft, and Microsoft told us in no uncertain terms, you've got to be ready to respond to Windows Display Scaling up to 250 or 300% or even more, because they don't know how far we're going to go on this resolution scale. Well, the problem is SolidWorks was horrible at this, right? And here's a couple of screenshots to illustrate it. This I took on a Dell 24-inch screen. It's a 4K monitor. Right? And this is at 100% Windows scaling. So you can see, I mean, the whole UI is tiny. Not only the SolidWorks part of the UI, but the Windows controls too. You can't use it like this. You can't. It's impossible. Well, I suppose you could, but you spend forever just trying to get a target. Nice big model though, right? So here's 150%, and you start to see the problem. Windows, down at the bottom, the Windows taskbar rescaled nicely, but SolidWorks hardly did anything at all. Let's go up even further, 200%. I think on this monitor, 200% is the Windows recommended size, and you start to see the problem even more. Things start to get cut off, like the command manager tabs. And you can see the icons aren't responding at all. We didn't do anything with the width of the feature manager, right? If you slide it back and forth, there's a detemp where it's the natural width. We don't do anything with that. The tabs at the bottom, the three views is getting cut off. We're starting to get cut off over there in search commands. Let's go up to 250 and we can really see the problem, right? This is just horrible. Look at the search field in the upper corner. Look at the tabs. We don't respond at all. And then when you start diving even deeper, this is just the top level UI. When you go deeper, you go into a property manager, and input fields are getting cut in half. You get into dialog boxes, and it's just a nightmare. Throughout the whole UI, we were doing a horrible job. We had to fix that. And that's what we did in 2016. So here's 2016 at 100%, at 150%. At 200%, notice what's happening. The whole UI is scaling. The icons are scaling, all the fields are scaling. Let's bump it up to 250%, and you can see. We still have a bug down there in the corner, but I'm beating up the developers on that. Let's look at the property manager and the equations dialog box. The whole UI responds to Windows spec scaling. Right? This whole project was about making sure SolidWorks is going to be the best damn CAD package responding to Windows scaling on 4K monitors, 5K monitors, 8K monitors, and I don't know when, again, I don't know whether it's in a year, or 3 years, or 5 years, but I guarantee you're going to see a whole bunch of very high resolution monitors on everybody's desktops. Nobody's going to be running 800 by 600 anymore, right? Or 1024 by 768 or whatever. They're going to be running high-resolution monitors. This is the problem. That's why we get it. All right. What about the icons? Why did I change the icons? It's like, I love the icons, right? Why did I do it? Well, the problem is these icons were last touched, created in 2002, 2003, and they shipped in SOLIDWORKS 2004. Right? If you go back before SOLIDWORKS 2004, the icons are the same, but they're solid color. Right? It's solid yellow and solid green. And in 2002, 2003, they redesigned, they recolorized them really. They didn't redesign them, they recolorized them and made them like how great it is. And they first shipped in 2004. All right, so that's 11 years ago. The problem is they are raster sources, not vector sources. I can't scale them. All that scaling you saw, I needed vector sources in order to do that. Well, I could scale these, but you would not like the results, trust me. Right? So I had to do something. And so, an obvious question is, well, why not just redesign these as vectors, right? Well, remember when I talked about modernizing the UI before? I know many of you love these, but not everyone does. And these are quotes that I got from research I did with real customers, right? You get some people who are saying, yeah, SOLIDWORKS does kind of look dated and cartoonish, and circus, crayon, amateurish. And as a designer, yeah, I sort of have to agree with them. I realize you're familiar with them, but let's look towards the future. And what about these icons? Now, many people notice, hey, those are the same icons that they're using in the 3D experience product platforms. And that's where I think the conspiracy theory that, DS made them do it. Guess what? My team designed those icons. When we started working on what is now the 3D experience platform products, we were given a fairly blank slate to design new modern UI. And the icons is one of the things we looked at. And we said, okay, well, one, we know we need vector sources. And this is work that we started in 2009, 2010. We need vector sources. And we want to respond to that modern, professional, trained list. These are some of the words that we used in thinking about the new UI. So those icons didn't come out of DS, Corporate, or Belize. They came out of my team. We were given us the ability to design a new UI. That's what we came up with. And I'm actually quite proud that after we started, then the 3D experience platform came into being, and people in Belize started seeing our icons and comparing them against, say, what CATIA had. And in 2012, all of the other brands basically came to us and said, can we use your icons too? And this is a good thing, I think, too. We now have this one style used by the entire corporation. But it's driven by SOLIDWORKS. And many of the UI things that you see in the 3D Experience platform, my team we spend a lot of time trying to influence the platform and drive the UI platform forward. And the icons are one example. Now I realize feedback runs both ways. Right? There are people who, they just love the old icons, they're used to them, and that's what we're hearing, right? It's like, okay, well, the new icons are sort of uniform, and I kind of like the way they look, but I just wish they still had color. But we do get people on the other end, too, right? This is, listening exactly the action that we were looking for. Oh, those icons look professional. They're not stressful. They're more pleasing to the eye. Feedback runs both ways. There are some who claim, whoa, we've taken away all color. No, that's not the truth. the red tree of death, as we call it, still exists. Make color count. There will still be color in the UI, and there may be more color in the UI next year, I don't know. But we want to use color where color is important, and we want to make it count. And I want to finish on this. If you run, since beta 3, we introduced this. So we are listening. I'm not deaf to all the feedback. And we heard many people complaining about the brightness of the UI. And remember when I said earlier, part of this project was about making SOLIDWORKS easier to change in the future. This is the kind of change that we had in mind all along, and I was hoping to introduce in 2017. When we started 2016, we didn't think we could do it all, so we had put this on the back burner, but in response to all the comments, we decided, let's go ahead and do it. And this is our first attempt. This will ship in SP0. We're not going to take it out, even though it was marked as experimental in beta. We're going to go forward with it. And in 2016, you'll have these 3 choices. We're still working. I'm not happy with the dark. We're still working on it, but you'll have the light, medium, and dark. In 2017, if all goes well in 2017, I'm going to enhance this even more. Because one of the things I want to do is I want to give you a slider, right? It's just from light to dark. You just pull the slider where you want. I'm hoping I can get that done in 2017. I want to end, I don't have a slide for this, I want to end just giving you an overview of as Director of User Experience, there's sort of 3 high-level principles that I use in trying to bring the UI forward each year. The first is that I want your focus to be on the model, not on our UI. I want the user interface to serve your work, and I want your work to focus on the model. The second is, and there's 2 ways of saying the second. Every mouse click counts, and minimize the mouse travel. And in the demos today, you're going to see a whole bunch of, particularly the first, every mouse click counts. You're going to see a lot of things where it's like, in 2015, it's click, 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 and in 2016, it's bam, right? And minimize the mouse travel. There's all kinds of things in the UI that we constantly do to help you minimize mouse travel, right? The shortcut toolbar, mouse gestures, keyboard shortcuts, command search. If you haven't started using command search, I love that. I've got it bound to a key, and boy, that's a nice fast way to go. So, minimize mouse travel. And the third is a realization that no 2 users are alike, and people like different things. And that's so the idea is customization. This is one example of customization. And throughout the UI, we try to provide that. You can customize your shortcut toolbars. You can customize your mouse gestures. Customize your keyboard shortcuts, customize this, customize that, and I want to customize UI to be every bit as flexible as all those other things. I'm here all day, I'm in a bright red shirt. Don't confuse me with this poor guy. Thank you for your attention.